is a guy that has a huge following himself because his tweets are just so damn good. And he's so honest and so fair. And I love it when he calls out the far right, particularly MAGA Republicans. I'm talking about Ron Filipkowski from Meidas Touch. He's also the co-host of Uncovered and a former federal and state prosecutor. And Ron joins us right now on PTL. Ron, it's a pleasure to have you on, my friend. How are you?
Hey, doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing great. It's good to see you, my friend. First of all, I have a thank you for you. Thank you for sharing some of my Trump videos that you put up on your social media platform. It seemed to create quite a stir. Did it not, Ron?
Yeah, I used to be able to go out to the Trump rallies all the time, but I can't anymore because I'll get killed. But it's always enlightening when you can kind of go out there and blend in a little bit and just check out the scene. I also enjoy going through the parking lots, looking at the bumper stickers, the stuff that they write on their cars. I mean, to me, that's more interesting than the speeches is the people.
Oh, I didn't even listen to any of his speech. Yeah, I'm with you, my friend. I was doing all the other stuff, checking out the Trump Bibles. And, it's funny because I was texting with you that morning and I kind of felt guilty when you asked me if I was there. And then I kind of got in my car and I went. So you kind of gave me a little bit of a push to do that, I guess. And I'm glad I actually did go. Let me ask you a question. I know you've never compared it to like the Klan like I did. And I'm not insinuating that every Trump supporter is a racist, because that's not true. That'd be a ridiculous thing to say. I have friends that are Trump supporters. I'm sure you do as well. Sure. And it doesn't mean we have to agree with them. But I make the case of it's like a cult, like the Klan, right? What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that analogy?
I don't know that I would use the Klan, but I mean, I've used other ones like Jim Jones and what was the name of the People's Temple? That was his, or David Koresh, or some of these people. Yeah, there's a lot of the characteristics. I first started calling them a cult in 2019. And that was only after really seriously immersing myself in them, because I was just like an establishment Republican at the time, held a bunch of different offices, appointed and stuff. And I really just saw what was happening underneath the party. And I wanted to kind of delve in there and figure these people out, because a lot of them I had never seen before Trump. You never saw a lot of these people at Republican meetings or rallies or events. A lot of these people are new people. They never even voted before 2016. So I really wanted to kind of understand these people. And once I dove into that world, you really see that it's like a cult.
And I agree with you. And it seems to me that there's a couple different types of Trump supporters. I want to get your thoughts on this. There's, uneducated, as Trump said, he likes the uneducated, maybe people that are very brainwashed. And then there's people that are intelligent people, but they understand that to remain in power, they need to kiss the ring of Donald Trump. Or maybe it's a financial situation. Maybe they're extremely wealthy and they think Trump will save them money in their bank account. Do you feel that way, that there's two different types of Trump supporters out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of three, I think. There's that one, that the very educated, wealthy, sophisticated people that are very cynical, and they understand that they have to play this game, but Trump is very easily manipulated, and a lot of them have risen higher in life with income, appointments. A lot of these people have things on their resume that no one else, you take a Cash Patel or Rick Grinnell or John McEntee. These people have these incredibly high sounding titles on their resumes because of Donald Trump. There's no one else, Stephen Miller. There's nobody else that would have put them in high government positions other than Trump. So they have that crew of people who either have served under him or want jobs in his next administration. And so that's that group. Then you have that group that is just very uneducated, very brainwashed, very misguided. They only watch Newsmax or Fox News or Real America's Voice or Right Side Broadcasting or Steve Bannon, and that's all where they get their information. And then you have that group in the middle that most people don't talk a lot about, but this is a big chunk of MAGA, which is there's this misconception that, and I had this too, that all of MAGA is the last group I just talked about, all just misguided, low information. And if you could just get them the facts, if you could just present to them the real truth about Donald Trump and his misogyny and his racism and all of his bankruptcies and failed business ventures and his corruption, that they'll see the light. But then you realize, though, that there's this big chunk of MAGA that fully understands all that stuff about Trump. And that's exactly why they like him. They like the fact that he's that way. And so once you understand that, then you really understand the three parts of MAGA, you know?
I think that's really, really well said. Again, if you're joining us from Meidas Touch, he's the editor-in-chief. Love what they do with the Meidas Touch, and the co-host of Uncovered, Ron Filipkowski. All right, I want to get your reaction on the Hunter Biden verdict. And, not everybody, but a lot of people on the far right, as you eloquently pointed out on Twitter, there's black people on the jury. They're going to find him not guilty. They're going to throw the charges away. There's no way that he's going to be convicted. He's never going to go to jail. You've heard all that from the far right on so many of the major right-wing networks. And now the verdict came in guilty. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting how they've been continuously moving the goalposts on Hunter Biden since 2020, really. I mean, when the laptop first came out with Rudy and all that, I followed this entire saga. I saw the laptop stuff back then in 2021, all of it, all the stuff with him in the hotel rooms with the hookers and smoking crack. I saw that stuff in 2021. So none of this stuff is new or surprising to me. Hunter was definitely a party animal who was way down the road of drug addiction, right? So, but the issue is, how does any of that tie to Joe? That's really the only question, because, they're all dunking on Hunter. Ha ha, we own the libs. Hunter got convicted. And I think most of us are like, so what? I mean, we have empathy for the guy. We understand, what drug addicts go through. And a lot of us have had the same kind of challenges, family members. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're like, he's not running for anything. This is not anything with Joe. So first, when they first came out with all the Hunter stuff, it was, they were going to tie Joe to this big international money laundering crime syndicate. And what do they have at the end of the day? They have, they can't even get that out of James Comer's committee. They can't even vote anything out of his committee on that investigation. And all they're left with is that he bought firearms while addicted to drugs. Big deal.
Do you feel like, as I feel, the only real gun that so many of these far right MAGA Republicans care about is an unloaded gun that Hunter Biden had for about 2 weeks?
Well, that's been the funny part, is watching their reaction to the verdict today. A lot of them, Gates was one. Several others are like, you know what? I don't even think this should be a crime, though. They're like, their take on it is basically like, Hunter's a piece of shit. We don't like Hunter. We think he's done a lot worse than this, but at the same time, we don't even think this really should be a crime, because you have to realize a lot of these hardcore Second Amendment people, they don't think there should be any gun laws. So they think this whole thing is kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, they despise Hunter Biden.
I want to read to you Charlie Kirk, who I think is just despicable, but here's what he put on social media. Hunter Biden guilty, yawn. The true crimes of the Biden crime family remain untouched. This is a fake trial trying to make the justice system appear balanced. Don't fall for it. What's your response to that?
Yeah, that's one of their takes is, well, they're just making him the sacrificial lamb on these relatively minor charges to divert attention away from the big stuff. But here's the thing. The House, James Comer, for 3 years did nothing else, and Jim Jordan, those two did nothing else but investigate the Hunter Biden Burisma stuff. I followed it very closely. I read all the transcripts of every deposition that they made public, and most of them they did not make public. And there's just absolutely nothing there. There is nothing there. I could sit down and I could debate James Comer all day long, as Jamie Raskin has done, as Jared Moskowitz has done, and show that what they have is nothing. They have no evidence to tie Joe directly to it. So it's easy for a guy like Charlie Kirk to say that, but if they have the proof, why didn't they even bring it up for a vote to impeach Joe Biden? Moskowitz challenged him one day, it was pretty famous that day. And he said, okay, let's vote on it right now. I challenge you, call it up for a vote, Comer, Mr. Chairman, call it up for a vote. And the reason why he did that is because Moskowitz knew that there were several members, Republicans on that committee, that were going to vote against it because it wasn't proven. Look, Fox's chief legal analyst, Jonathan Turley, who's Trump's favorite legal analyst, even he said they didn't have enough proof.
Right. And I love your tweets when you go, well, here's Mr. Turley again. What a credible person to talk about this legal case. I love your sarcasm.
He predicted that Hunter would be found not guilty, by the way, because he was the one saying, oh, he's got an all black jury. And they sat a guy from the president of the Delaware NAACP in the front row. They're rigging it. it's sort of like the Godfather analogy where they brought the guy's uncle in from Sicily to sit in the front row while he's testifying.
Right. Ron, don't you find it interesting that there's never any retractions with the far right? Well, you remember what happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband, where the conspiracy theories, Ted Cruz, Matt Gaetz, that it was some sort of gay relationship and he let him in. And then when the police report comes out, no retractions, no apologies. And then, for instance, this situation with Hunter Biden, all the people on the networks on the far right that said it would be a not guilty verdict and the black people on the jury would find him not guilty. It seems like when they're constantly wrong, whether it be the Donald Trump trial or this trial, there's never a retraction or an apology or just saying, hey, you know what? I was wrong. I got that one wrong.
The person that all goes back to, you could trace it back, is Roy Cohn. And I'll sort of explain because first of all, the other thing is one of the main purveyors of that conspiracy was Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the one who was one of the first ones who spread that thing that this was a gay lover of Pelosi. And then 12 hours later, after 100 million people saw it, he quietly deletes the tweet and says nothing, issues no apology. So like you said, they never retract. So Donald Trump's real father really wasn't Fred Trump. The guy who taught him everything he knew back in the 70s was Roy Cohn, who was his first lawyer, who's basically a mob type lawyer. And Trump has talked about this, that he taught him several life lessons and that he's lived with to this day. And one of them is that, which is never retract, never apologize, no matter if you've completely made him. And you'll see this in Trump's speeches when he misspeaks a line or something, he'll play it off and act like he meant to say that, because under this philosophy, the Roy Cohn sort of philosophy, never ever admit you made a mistake, never apologize. And the whole MAGA movement and now the Republican Party has been infected with that philosophy, that this despicable, horrible person, Roy Cohn, who's one of the worst Americans in history of this country, has now his life philosophy now governs the Republican Party.
Yeah, it's just mesmerizing to me. I always wanted to ask you this question. You're obviously an extremely educated, intelligent man, a lifelong Republican, right? Until recently.
Right.
If you were in a room with Donald Trump privately, I'm curious, what, if anything, would you say to him?
I think, well, I mean, there would be a lot. I think I'd really want to talk about the McCain stuff, because that was really like, I never liked Donald Trump going back to the 80s, so I kind of always knew what he was about. And I was a USFL fan and he wrecked that league growing up. So I never really liked him. I always thought he was a huckster and a con artist. But, when he ran for president, I had open mind. I was a Republican. I did not support him in the primary. I voted for Rubio. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe he's matured. Maybe he's outgrown a lot of maybe the gravity of the office and the situation will make him, see the light and straighten up his act. But, then he came out with that McCain stuff where he talked about the fact that he was a POW, right, doesn't make him a war hero, that kind of thing. And it's just like, I really would want to pin him down on that, and flesh that out. And I also would like to pin him down on his abortion stance as well. Yeah. So I think really I'd also like to ask him about his proposal to have parents elect principals of their elementary schools and middle schools. And I'd like to spend 5 minutes with him, having him explain to me how that's going to work.
Yeah, I think that would be, that would be a great conversation to listen to. One more quick question for you. And that would be what would you say to some of your Republican friends that have served this country, that are voting for a man, suckers and losers, dodging the military multiple times, the stuff he said about John McCain, I don't respect him because he was captured, and your Republican friends that are female, after this man is a liable sexual abuser proven in a courtroom, 30 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault, as including his ex-wife. What would you say to your Republican friends today? Women, brave men and women in uniform. What do you say to them that still support this man?
Well, I think the most powerful arguments, and you see this a lot from former Republicans on social media, like Rick Wilson, George Conway, Bill Kristol. We could go on and on down the line. Adam Kinzinger, who's still a Republican, but hopefully not much longer, is we all sort of use a similar approach to our Republican friends that are still kind of hanging in there. And we try to use the fact that because their reflex to that will be fake news. That was in that was on CNN. That story was in the Atlantic. Fake news, and that's sort of what I hear back from them on that stuff. And then what you say to them is, no, this is not coming from the fake news. This is coming from Republican Marine Corps generals, Army generals, multiple, not just Kelly. Donald Trump's own chief of staff, who was a 4-star Marine general, is the one who said this. So it's not the fake news. But still, because it came through the filter of CNN and the Atlantic, and because Kelly never went on camera or did an interview about this, he just talked to reporters. They don't believe it, and that's why I've been so insistent over and over again on. I know John Kelly is not on social media, but I know that a lot of his friends are, and so I just keep, some of whom follow me, who are generals, and I just keep putting this out there to Kelly, taunting him. You have to go on camera because, as you can see, they don't believe that you said this. So the only way that some of these people are going to believe it is to hear it directly from you.
I agree. Even though he wrote a letter to CNN, but he didn't actually get in front of the camera. I could not agree with you more. He needs to be in front of a camera and saying that. Okay, I lied. One more quick question.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if you've even made a prediction what's going to happen in November. I don't know if you've publicly even made that prediction, but if I asked you here, I know there's a lot of time between now and November and things can change. What do you think is going to happen? Who do you think is going to win based on what you know?
I mean, I haven't really predicted it. I mean, I pray, of course, that it's going to be Biden. I really think that this first debate is going to be so important. I hate to put so much on the debate, but
agree.
I think that there's this big chunk of undecided voters who really don't like Trump. His negatives are 60%. I mean, you got 60% of the people who are saying we absolutely do not want to vote for this man. However, we believe that Joe Biden is too old and he can't make it through 4 more years, and we don't like Kamala Harris. So that's like this big chunk of people. And I think that the State of the Union really helped with those people, sort of bring some of them around like, hey, he did pretty good there. But really the debate going head to head against Trump, if he comes out and does well and speaks well and, doesn't make a lot of gaffes and mistakes, I think that the polls are really going to come around. So I think that this debate is one of the most important debates ever, just because of so many voters having questions about Biden's cognitive ability.
Couldn't agree with you more. I've said that on the air constantly. It's more important for Joe Biden than Donald Trump. He has to prove to some of those people that he doesn't even have to win the debate, right, Ron? He just needs to prove that he's competent and he's still fit for the job. I wanted to just publicly thank you, Ron, for sharing some of my videos at the rally the other day. It seems like a lot of your followers enjoyed it. And
yes,
I want to really thank you for that. I love what you guys do at Meidas Touch. And you're there's a reason why you have such a large following. You're just really good at what you do, and you just tell it like it is. And I have the utmost respect for you and everybody else there at Meidas Touch, even though one of your coworkers called me a right-wing host. He was wrong. And I laughed at that. And I had some listeners like, really? Somebody called me a right-wing host? They obviously don't know what I do, but that's okay.
Yeah, Brian, I told Ben, he's like, oh, tell him I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I said, don't worry, I'm going on his show. We'll make up for it that way. So
I can understand why he would think that, though, because 99% of talk radio shows are right-wing shows. So I can understand why
I think the reason was it because of what you were saying to the people you kept saying, why are you leaving? Like you were sort of acting like you were outraged that they were leaving,
Yeah, I was very sarcastic, but no, you guys are great over there. Ben's a good dude, and so are you. And I appreciate you taking the time joining me on the show again, Ron. Appreciate the good work. I don't need to promote your Twitter page. You have enough followers on there, but I appreciate you coming on, Ron. Thank you so much.
Right,
have a good one. All right, take care.
See ya.
Appreciate it. That's the great Ron Filipkowski. Man, is that guy a great follow. Man.